40 for Raidable Crest Titans.
Welcome to the Special Stage Rally Show in association with the Mini Rally Challenge. Coming up in tonight's show, as you can see, we've got a very packed Garstang Town Centre for the ceremonial start of the Legend Fires Northwest Stages Rally. It is the first round of the Pro Tyre Motorsport UK Asphalt Rally Championship. But before that, we got another season kicked off this month. Here's action from the opening round of the Pro Tyre BTRDA Rally Championship. It's the Malcolm Wilson Rally. The Malcolm Wilson Rally would kick the season off in style with a tricky pair of night stages, changing things up this year. A new challenge for the crews and a new spectacle for the spectators. One that went very well for Gary Pearson and Hannah McKillop. They took an early lead at the end of the short opening day of action. And that lead would be over Elliot Payne and Patrick Walsh. Elliot, of course, the previous youngest and reigning BTRDA champion, looking to get his season off to a flying start. Second for now was just about it. Only 6 seconds off the lead. Third at this stage will be a couple of new faces fighting here in the BTRDA series. Vivian Hamill and Lorcan Moore. Here this season and clearly getting to grips with that polo very quickly. They end the evening just 3 seconds back from Payne. Matthew Hurst and Declan Deere hadn't had a straightforward season in the BTRDA last year. They'd be looking for a lot better luck to match their pace this time around in that Fiesta R5. They end the evening 4th place overall. And we see a welcome return to the stages for Perry Gardner and Jack Bowen. After some time away, the youngster was settling in well, lying in 5th place for now. The short, sharp evening stages weren't going to plan for everyone though. We'd lose Samuel Mason and James Seymour when they got caught out very close to the end of the second stage, going off the road and into a tree. Day 2 would see the familiar daylight stages of the Malcolm Wilson Rally, including a couple of runs through Greystoke, of course, and it would still be the lead for Gary Pearson and Hannah McKillop, maintaining that advantage by the midpoint of the rally. No change in the positions for Elliot Payne and Patrick Walsh. They would, however, close in a little on our rally leaders. The gap now down to just 3 seconds. And a similar story for Vivian Hamill and Lorcan Moore too. They closed the gap, ending up with just a single second, being the deficit to Payne up ahead with just 3 stages to go. Could it be any closer? There was a bit of change just outside our podium positions. Freddie Milne and Max Freeman managing to climb the leaderboard into 4th place now in the Skoda. There was frustration, though, going the wrong way for Matthew Hurst and Declan Deere on the leaderboard. They dropped down to 24th place overall, losing a drive shaft, literally losing a drive shaft on the second stage of the day and having to limp through. But fair play they did, and they got back on it. So for now, 5th place would belong to this man, Rory Young. Jamie Edwards alongside, lots of experience inside that car then. Only 7 seconds back at this stage. It was still quite close in the top of the order. Perry Gardner and Jack Bowen had, unfortunately for them, dropped a bit of time through the morning stages, having been up as far as 4th by the end of Friday night. They'd lose some time, ending the next morning with 6th. For Scott Beattie and Perida Wynne Davies, meanwhile, it would be 7th. The pair 8 seconds back on the leaderboard now, but moving the right way. Icelandic duo Daniel Sigurðarson and Asta Sigurdardóttir were back in the BTRDA this year and in the Rally 2 Fiesta. 8th place was theirs for now. A good start so far on round 1, getting to grips with that new car. And once again, we see the blue Evo pair of Russ Thompson and Stephen Link leading the way in the B13 class. A regular sight now, not just the lead. They lie inside the top 10 overall with 9th place at this stage. And rounding out the top 10 was Stephen Petch and Michael Wilkinson, former BTRDA champions. The Skoda pair just a single second back from Thompson as well at this stage. Let's take a look at some of the battles just outside of the top 10. And it would be Greg McKnight and Harry Marchbank leading the way in the two-wheel drive crews. They end the morning 22nd overall. Second of those two-wheel drive crews would be Stuart Eggleston and Brian Hodgson, a few positions back on the overall results in 25th. The pair also the fastest of the historic crews as well at this stage. And in the 1400 category, it would be the lead for Callum Black and Jack Morton, back in the 1400s and taking the place of Dad Steve in the car this weekend. A switch back to the Swift after a strong season last year in that Rally 2 Fiesta. Closest to our Pro Tyre Motorsport UK Asphalt Rally champion Black on the results in that category at this stage would be reigning BTRDA Bronze Star champions Nigel and Kaz Jenkins. It's an all-star cast. They were pushing the Nova well, just 9 seconds back. In the R2 category, we'd see another star contender, M Sport WRC team boss Rich Milner with Gail White alongside, leading the way from 48th place on the overall leaderboard. And that lead was over Martin and Tommy Meadows, swapping seats once again for Martin to do the driving and lying a few positions back overall in 57th. So before we head out for the last loop of stages in the afternoon and look at the final results, here's a reminder of the leaderboard after stage 4 here on the Malcolm Wilson Rally. On to the afternoon stages then, and we wouldn't see any change in the R2 category. Martin and Tommy Meadows taking second place, moving up to 43rd overall though in the process. But taking victory on their home event and something of a busman's holiday will be Rich Milner and Gail White, the Fiesta pair keeping ahead of the rest and finishing with the class victory from 41st place overall. Now it's back to the day job. The historic classes would change a little. Stuart Eggleston crashing out of the lead, leaving Ben Jemison and Dave Jackson to be the fastest historic crew at the finish in that startling Vauxhall Chevette this weekend in 33rd overall. No change in the 1400 class though. Nigel and Kaz Jenkins happy to come away with second place after a good fight all weekend. But showing that they've still got what it takes on the loose stuff, it was victory for Callum Black and Jack Morton, going on to win in that front-wheel drive pocket rocket. The pair ending the rally 29th place overall. The loss of Eggleston means a change to the top of the two-wheel drive results as well, with David Wilson and Gordon Kyle stepping up and only too happy to do so into that second place two-wheel drive crew on the rally in 23rd. But there's no change to the lead. It was an emphatic one. Greg McKnight and Harry Marchbank happy to finish as the fastest two-wheel drive crew this weekend, and might well they be, with 21st overall, even after losing a little time on the final stage of the day. We're on to the top 10 then. What a season open the Malcolm Wilson Rally had been yet again. And it was a good fight back from that lost drive shaft from Matthew Hurst and Declan Deer. They end the event with a very, very incredible 10th place overall. Not the maximum points that they came here looking for, but at least they get a score on the board for the opening round, showing their grit once again. For Daniel Sigurdsson and Asta Sigurdottir, it would be a 9th place finish. They didn't have a lot of seat time in this new Rally 2 car, so it was a learning curve and one that seemed to have gone pretty well this weekend. Class B13 would of course be claimed by Russ Thompson and Stephen Link by the end of the rally. The Evo pair grabbing that victory with a fantastic 8th place overall as well, with some pretty strong competition around them. Just ahead of them on the final results at the finish of the rally will be Stephen Petch and Michael Wilkinson. Former BTRDA champions, they have a good afternoon to move up into that spot. For John Wink and Neil Shanks, it would be 6th place to end the rally. A strong climb back through the leaderboard over the event gained them a number of places as the day went on. There was a bit of last-minute drama though, and frustration for the similar Hyundai of Stuart and Mark Irvine. Things not quite going to plan. They go a little wide on this hairpin in the slippery stage, ending up in the ditch. It didn't look like much, but the pair, believe me, we tried. We're going nowhere. Scott Beattie and Pereira Davies record one of their best finishes in the last few years, and certainly their best finish in that R5. They take 5th place by the end of the rally this weekend. For Rory Young and Jamie Edwards, it would be fourth, reverting back to a Ford at the end of last season after some time in the Citroën. This weekend would be a great start to the season after 2023 ended with a pretty dramatic accident. We were on to those podium positions then. In third place, it was Freddie Milne and Max Freeman. Problems for Gary Pearson had seen him drop back outside the top 10, so we were seeing people gain a position, helping Milne take that final podium spot after holding fourth earlier in the day with strong pace. The Irish pair of Vivian Hamel and Lorcan Moore would also gain from that change, ending the rally second. A fantastic start to their campaign. They'd well and truly thrown their hat in the ring now for a BTRDA Championship title fight. But taking victory and starting the defence of that title would be Elliot Payne and Patrick Walsh. They'd end the rally 38 seconds ahead of the rest of the competition after taking the lead from Pearson on stage 5 just before he dropped down the order. So we've reached the end of the Malcolm Wilson Rally. Fair play to the organisers for once again being creative with the format. Here's a reminder of those overall results. Rally North Wales would mark the start of the Pirelli Welsh Rally Championship season. And back out to defend their title will be Matthew Hurst and Declan Deer. And after some trouble on the Malcolm Wilson Rally a few weeks earlier, they'd be glad of a good, clean run this time out. Will be keeping everything crossed for a bit of luck. Leading from the start and taking an eventual victory with a 3-minute advantage was exactly that. Iconic stages to do battle in, and over the first two of them it will be George Lepley and Dale Bowen that have been the second fastest. Sadly for them, they'd retire in stage 3 in that Group A Mitsubishi, ending a potential podium finish. So it would be up to another historic crew to uphold those honours, and they worked their way up the results as the day went on. Nick Elliott and Dave Price eventually putting the Fiat 131 into that second place behind Hurst at the finish. What a podium that is. Daniel O'Brien and Mark Glenister joined the Welsh Championship for this season, bringing the Fiesta WRC out. It's not often you get to see a World Rally car on the stages anymore, and you can imagine how excited I am. They hadn't been out in some time though, and would take a bit of time to settle in, but they reached the end of the rally with that final step on the podium. Just off the podium was James Giddings, Aled Davies alongside. They've been up as high as second place themselves, but a bit of time dropped on stage 6 will put them down the leaderboard again, ending the rally with 4th. I think it's safe to say things didn't quite go to plan for David Crossan and Ben Taggart. They would reach the end of stage 6 of the rally before rolling the Escort and retiring from the event, captured here by James Woodhouse Wright of Revved Up Productions. Thanks for the clip. Trevor Gamble and Phil Kenny, meanwhile, were another crew that had been briefly in second place, moving into that position on the 6th stage. But unfortunately for them, by the end of the rally, they dropped down a few positions, having a bit of a troublesome afternoon, finishing the day in 5th. 7 seconds back from them on the overall times were Daniel Mennell and Richard Wise. They finished with second place in the historic classes as well this weekend. And just behind them in the historic times would be a very entertaining Seb Perez, Gary McElhaney alongside in that Amigos Porsche. And when we say just behind, we mean just a single second in it. The times extremely close throughout the day, the pair taking 7th place though, as that battle came to its conclusion. Joe Price and Chris Brooks had previously been in that 7th spot themselves. Lots of change around on this leaderboard, but frustratingly for them, they retire just into the afternoon stages. Another all-star lineup here in Wales. Home event for former BRC champ Gwyndaf Evans with Dale Furness alongside. It had gone well for the pair. They bring the Escort home in 8th place overall. Some strong pace after getting back into the car for the first time since last September. And for Rudy Lancaster and Guy Weaver, it would be 9th. A strong end to the rally for the pair, adding to a very historic filled and variety-packed top 10 on Rally North Wales this weekend. Another legend and a welcome sight on the stages would be Mark Higgins and Carl Williamson in that glorious David Appleby Engineering TR7 V8. They'd been lying in 10th place for the first couple of stages, but frustration would strike once again. This will be the last we'd see of the pair when they put the car in a ditch going off the road. So rounding out the top 10 by the end of the rally would be Peter Bayliss and Paul Godden in that Mitsubishi. A very dramatic Rally North Wales comes to an end then. Here's a reminder of that overall leaderboard and a very dominant victory for reigning champs Hurst and Deer. Rally North Wales would also play host to the opening round of the Mini Rally Challenge. Supporters of our show for this season, and on this rally the crews would take on half of the overall event mileage. The leaderboard over the rally would remain close, no clear victor being decided early on. It would, however, be a win at the opening round for Jacob Neal and Russell Thompson as they reach the end of the fourth and final stage of their event with the lead to take maximum points to start their campaign. They hadn't led from the start though. Tom and Sue Hind had that privilege, actually putting in a fastest time on the opening stage and holding on to that for the next, eventually dropping down to second on stage 3. For Gareth Humphreys and Adam Burkill, meanwhile, it would be a good end to the rally. The final step on the podium, to be exact. They'd been down a position in 4th through the morning stages, but they managed to get themselves onto that podium and get some good points on the board to start their season. George Clark and Stephen Moises will be getting in on the action as well, moving around that leaderboard. They gain a position through the later stages to end the rally with 4th. This pair, Mark Jones and Michael Munday, part of the reason for some of that movement at least. They were another crew who'd been up in 2nd place, our 3rd crew to hold that spot in fact. But they would, unfortunately for them, lose some time as the day went on, ending the event in 5th. Just behind them by the finish would be a very consistent and pretty pleased Guy Butler and Julia Perry. The pair actually the only ones to hold their position all day, ending exactly where they'd started, in that respectable 6th place overall. And with the top of the results being filled out by the more powerful R53 minis, it will be Jack Birch and Mike Jode ending the rally in 7th place overall and the best of the R50 class. So the first round of the Mini Rally Challenge is under our belts. A reminder of those final results here on Rally North Wales.
The area once again welcomes the Clonakilty Park Hotel West Cork Rally with open arms. The fantastic scenery hiding some of the most challenging stages on the calendar, and it's out to those first stages that we head now for the short but challenging opening day here at round 2 of the Irish Tarmac Rally Championship. Having secured 2nd place on the opening round, Callum Devine and Noel O'Sullivan were already aiming for one better this weekend, taking an early lead of 6.3 seconds by the end of the opening day, pushing on as much as they could in the dark to gain that advantage. Winners last time out, Keith Cronin and Mikey Galvin, would make a cautious start. With competition like this, it wasn't always possible to bed yourself into an event, but the longer format on this year's West Cork Rally would make it a long rally, and pacing yourself could be the key to a result. After a disappointing opening round, Matt Edwards and David Moynihan certainly weren't looking for a repeat of that on round 2. They take it a little cautious in the opening stages, making a few changes to the car as the night went on to improve the confidence. They're happy with 3rd, but would have liked the margin of 30 seconds to be a little bit smaller. This weekend would be the first time in the new M Sport run car for Junior World Rally champions William Crichton and Liam Regan. They were happy with how it was going, having fun in the new Rally 2 machinery and seeing what it was capable of on the tricky Irish lanes. Johnny Greer and Niall Burns would be finding things difficult, getting caught out a few times. Those stages were mostly dry, but patches of running water in places were causing some issues. They end the day in 5th. West Cork would also see a competitive modified entry with newcomers to the event Jonathan Pringle and Pearse O'Callaghan leading the way on day 1. They actually didn't feel like it was going too well, their intention just to take it steady, but they'd come out of the first 4 stages of the event with a little over 10 seconds of an advantage. Their lead had been over the ever-entertaining Frank and Lauren Kelly, lying in 2nd place after the daylight stages, but unfortunately on stage 3, the pair would retire when they damaged the suspension on the Escort. That left 2nd place to Conor Murphy and Sean Collins. They hadn't been trouble-free themselves with a misfire all day, and this big overshoot on one of the hairpins. Unfortunately, despite finishing the day in 2nd place, they wouldn't restart on day 2. Kevin Eves and Chris Melly took a cautious approach to the stages. Too cautious, they felt. They were changing the setup on the car throughout the day to try and get it to handle how they wanted. But even with their self-proclaimed slow start, it would be 3rd place for the pair as they go into day 2. On to day 2, and it's safe to say the weather had taken a turn for the worse. Fog and rain greeted rally leaders Callum Devine and Noel O'Sullivan as they went into Saturday morning, and unfortunately they wouldn't be in the lead for long. They clipped a rock at the side of the road in stage 7 and got a puncture that dropped them down to 5th place as they limped their car to the end of the stage. And that, of course, would leave Keith Cronin and Mikey Galvin to take up the number 1 spot. They were pushing, but not taking any big risks, and passing the stricken Devine on the stage would allow them to back off with a good advantage at the front. Matt Edwards and David Moynihan were showing the importance of notes in these stages, trusting them as the visibility was so poor. They'd made a few changes in the morning service, and the feeling in the car was good, and of course they were up to 2nd place for now. William Crichton and Liam Regan didn't feel like they were committing as much as they could, feeling that there was a lot more to come from the car and from themselves. They were still going well though, and up to 3rd place now, with a podium looking good. Josh Moffat and Andy Hayes backed off a little more than they probably should have done in these stages, finding it tough with all the standing water, but they hold on to 4th place at the end of the loop. Just like Devine, who was now just ahead of them on results, Johnny Greer and Niall Burns would hit something when they cut too far into a corner on stage 6. Thankfully for them, it didn't cause any damage, but they'd also have another big scare on stage 8 when they almost lost control in 5th gear. Taking a look again at the modified battle, and it would still be Jonathan Pringle and Pearse O'Callaghan out in front, struggling a bit with the car floating around on water, but they were keeping it between the hedges and leading by just 4.9 seconds now. Closing in on that lead would be a hard-charging Kevin Eves and Chris Melly. They were putting in some fantastic times, not without its moments though. They clipped a bank on one of the stages, but didn't lose them any time, just a rear bumper. So all changed in the modifieds, and 3rd place would now belong to Colin Byrne and Stephen Quinn. A tough day, carrying a 50-second penalty from day 1, but that wasn't affecting their position. On to the afternoon stages now, and all that would be on the minds of Keith Cronin and Mikey Galvin would be to keep the car in one piece and maintain that lead. Easier said than done, of course. It's not always easy to manage your pace and not give a place away. Matt Edwards and David Moynihan knew that with so many stages to go, it was far from over. They might not be able to catch Cronin on stage times alone, but any number of things could push them into the lead, and they needed to be there just in case. William Crichton and Liam Regan would reach the end of stage 9 with a smile on their faces, their first fastest overall time, and it wouldn't be their last for sure. They lie in 3rd place and still felt there was a bit more to come. Josh Moffat and Andy Hayes would be looking to take that 3rd place from Crichton though, doing their own thing but with an eye on the overall times. 39 seconds would be the difference though, and that's a lot of time to make up on the final day. Sadly, the bad luck would continue into the afternoon for Callum Devine and Noel O'Sullivan. They clip another rock, this time doing more damage and causing the pair to pull over and retire in the final stage of the day. That would, of course, play into the hands of Johnny Greer and Niall Burns. 5th place was now theirs, and they were getting further up the leaderboard and staying out of trouble themselves. Once again, all change in the modifieds, with new leaders Kevin Eves and Chris Melly having a push in stages that they had some knowledge of to gain a lead of around 40 seconds going into the final day. Jonathan Pringle and Pierce O'Callaghan were still struggling to get the power down with the lack of grip, and they did everything they could to hold on to the lead. Alas, it would have to be 2nd place for them at the end of the day, and holding on to 3rd place would be Colin Byrne and Stephen Quinn, not driving flat out because of the conditions, so looking forward to having a go on day 3 if the stages dry out. On to the final day, and mercifully there would be a great improvement in those conditions, certainly making it easier for Keith Cronin and Mikey Galvin to make sure they get to the finish in one piece, their advantage dropping by a few seconds, but plenty in hand. Handbrake issues would be a minor inconvenience for Matt Edwards and David Moynihan in this morning's stages. Not a problem for most of them, but there were times it would have been handy. They'd need to sort that out in service before the final loop. William Crichton and Liam Regan were struggling with tyres going off in these stages. They took too soft a compound and they wouldn't last the full loop before giving the pair a few moments towards the end. They keep hold of that 3rd place for now though. Josh Moffat and Andy Hayes were unable to get themselves up to the podium places, at least at this stage anyway. They end the morning in 4th overall, but would be enjoying those improving conditions. Johnny Greer and Niall Burns were another pair reporting a wrong tyre choice, their rubber also going off by the end of the morning loop. Not ideal for the times, but not affecting them enough to make a difference to their overall position of 5th. It's on to the modifieds, and sadly for Colin Byrne and Stephen Quinn, it would be stage 17 that put an end to their event, crashing out and not making the finish. Some change then in the podium places as we see JF Shovlin and Terence Fury reaching the final step on the podium in 3rd in their escort. Damien Toner and Kevin Horgan just wanted to get through the event, so they took it a bit easier on the final stages, though 2nd place certainly a welcome result for the pair. But taking the win, Kevin Eves and Chris Melly. They were worried that spectators would think they'd an issue with the speed they were driving the stages in order to get to the finish in one piece. They did what they needed to do and took the win, putting them 2nd place in the standings. On to the overall results. Johnny Greer and Niall Burns would be glad to keep themselves inside the top 10, ending the event in 5th place and finally getting to enjoy the stages now that they were dry. Josh Moffat and Andy Hayes would be glad to finish the event with a clean day. No issues from the pair and the stages were good. They take 4th place overall, and while it might not give them number 1 on the door next year, it was certainly a result they'd be happy with. It also puts them 2nd in the championship. It had been a successful weekend for William Crichton and Liam Regan, new to the car and still getting used to it, but this weekend they had all kinds of conditions thrown at them, so the perfect way to shake down the new mount. With their sights set on 2nd from earlier in the event, Matt Edwards and David Moynihan would be happy enough doing what they needed to do in order to keep that place, and it's a welcome result after their opening round disaster. And of course, that means Keith Cronin and Mikey Galvin managed to hold on to the lead to the finish to take another win. 2 from 2 now and putting themselves clear in the lead of the championship. So, before we get some reaction, a quick look at how those final results were decided.
Keith, a dream start to your Tarmac Championship campaign, 2 wins in 2 events.
Yeah, I couldn't have asked for a better start. We came to this year with not a lot of rallying done over the last few years, but got the win in Galway and now got the win here in the West Cork. It's great to get it, really tough rally, but in terms of the championships are long years, so we're very early days yet. We'll go to other rounds, other guys are going to be quick, we could have problems, it's so far off the end of the year, so but it was great to get the start, rather be on this side of it than anywhere else.
Welcome to Garstang, where, as you can see, the atmosphere is in full flow for the ceremonial start here at the Legend Fires Northwest stages. Our reigning champion, Callum Black, is right up there on the start ramp with Jack Morton alongside. He is here to defend that title. It's not going to be an easy year, but it is going to be one heck of an exciting year. Here's a quick flavour of the atmosphere here at the ceremonial start ahead of the Pro Tyre Motorsport UK Asphalt Rally Championship.
I think we've had a couple of years to blood ourselves in now. Got a proper car, so let's see what we can do.
Stages have got it all, very technical, but also very fast in places. The conditions are going to be changing a lot, especially if it starts raining in the morning, so we'll have to be really careful and pick our way through, especially the muddy sections. But yeah, they're very challenging.
There's a little bit of dirt out there, but to be expected, single track, narrow lanes, but now I'm quite happy. It's been a good recce, the notes are working, so yeah, we should be fine.
Brilliant to see everybody coming to the town, and support it. So I think tomorrow the stages are going to be mint. It depends on what the weather's going to play, but I think it's going to be fantastic. I'm really looking forward to it.
Special atmosphere, always has been on this event anyway, but I think this year has surpassed it, any previous ones, I think. But yeah, we're very proud to sponsor the event, and yeah, it's great to have our name associated with it, really.
So with the fantastic Friday night festivities complete, we're on to Saturday morning's action. And over the morning stages, it will be the early lead for last-time winner Chris Ingram, Alex Kirani alongside for this season, and a full assault on the BRC on the cards. For Orshan Price and Rodri Evans, it will be second place as our crews reached service. Unfortunately, though, with a number of accidents in the stages and some challenges for the organisers, the leading crews would only tackle 3 of the 5 stages competitively, but it was still throwing up some close battles. After a podium finish in West Cork just a week earlier, it would be a strong start for Will Crichton and Liam Regan. They reached the end of the morning in 3rd place. The Junior World Rally champions adapting to the M Sport Rally 2 machinery well. This weekend would see a highly anticipated debut in the UK for the Toyota Yaris Rally 2 in the hands of Myron Evans and Jonathan Jackson. The Castrol throwback colour scheme had caused a stir before the event, and it looked the part on the stages too as they settled into an impressive 4th place. James Williams and Ross Whittock will be the first of the Pro Tyre Motorsport UK Asphalt Rally Championship crews on the leaderboard at this stage of the rally. A new car for this season, and they were looking forward to getting stuck into things, seeing what they could do with it. Ending the morning with 5th place on the overall leaderboard, 22 seconds back from Evans up ahead. 4-time BRC champion Keith Cronin, Mikey Galvin alongside started the rally well, 2nd place on the opening 2 stages. But by the time they reached service, they'd be back in 6th. A puncture, amongst other issues, slowing their progress. Not the position that the West Cork Rally winners wanted to find themselves in at this early stage of the rally. It was bad luck for reigning Pro Tyre Motorsport UK Asphalt Rally champions Callum Black and Jack Morton too. They damaged the suspension in the 3rd stage, having been in 6th place on the overall leaderboard. Disappointing, but with the following stages of the morning cancelled, they'd be able to get back out for a run in the afternoon to see what they could do. Paul McKinnon and Keir Beaton make an occasional outing here at the first round of the Asphalt Championship. Paul having only done 2 events since his 2nd place finish on this event 2 years ago. And considering the lack of seat time, they were going extremely well, it had to be said, in 7th place overall. Mark Kelly and Will Atkins make a welcome return to the Pro Tyre Motorsport UK Asphalt Rally Series for 2024, having had a bit of time away to get settled in again after Mark's accident on the Argyll stages last season. They were working well together in the car, getting back in the rhythm pretty quickly, and the pace was looking good. They take 8th place for now, 2nd of the Pro Tyre Championship crews. It would, though, be a position that they shared with this man, Hugh Brunton, Drew Sturrock alongside. The times after the morning stages would be identical, putting them level going into the afternoon stages and with it all to play for at this end of the top 10 leaderboard. And rounding out that top 10 now were local crews Simon Bowen, Craig Simkes alongside. Local stages, of course, for Simon, and going well in that S2000 Turbo Fiesta. Only 0.1 of a second back from Kelly, and Brunton up ahead too. You need a bit of luck in lanes like these, and one of the unlucky crews from the morning stages will be David Wright and Paula Swinsko. They crash out in dramatic fashion on stage 2, hitting a tree at high speed and spinning the car down the stage to a stop. Parts missing, bits hanging off the car, unable to move and clear the way through the stage. The Class D runners would only get a clean run through stage 2, and on that stage it would be local crew Darren Atkinson and Matty Daniels leading the way. They take a small advantage as well at this stage of 1.2 seconds. That may have been different if they'd got a time for more stages, but for now it would be Chris West and Keith Hounslow that were closest to them on the times. Chris out for a full season in the Pro Tyre Asphalt Series in that glorious 306 Maxi. Class E would be another class to only get a clean run at stage 2, and it would be William Hill and Perida Wynne Davies quickest through there to take a 7.9 second lead going into service. Behind them, Wayne Sisson and Michael Hendry were enjoying Wayne's local event. But in any case, they'd like to get a good result regardless of where they are in the country, and they were going the right way about that. With the cancelled stages, we'll need to wait until the afternoon loop to look at the rest of the classes. So for now, the leaderboard at the top of the Legend Fires Northwest stages look like this. After some quick thinking and some decisive action from the Legend Fires Northwest stages organisers, we're on to the afternoon stages. And with all of the competitors getting a run over them, we can now take a look at the rest of the class results as well. Ending the event with 90th overall, second in Class H would be Danny Cowell and Mark Standen in the Talbot Samba. What a car. But taking the victory in that class will be Jeff Roberts and Steve Hallmark in the Escort. 68th overall for the pair by the end of the rally. In Class C, it will be second place in the class for Michael Harbour and Cameron Dunn in the Mark II Escort. They finished the first round with 55th overall. A special mention, though, has to go to Chris Butcher and Jonathan Hawkins. Well, you know what I'm like, if nothing else, for bringing out that glorious Group A Nissan Sunny kit car on the stages. The pair do also end the rally with third place in the class. Initially, Class C had had a convincing lead with Matt Turner and Fiona Crump out front, but they would crash out of the event on stage 7. That meant victory in the class would go to Ben Crump and Ian Beaumont. They finished in 51st on the overall leaderboard. And in Class A, it would be second place for that cracking-looking Corsa of Simon Hunter and Howard Pridmore. The pair close to the lead by the end of the rally too. Only 5.4 seconds the gap. And in that lead position would be Mark and Andrew Constantine, taking that lead in the very last stage of the rally after we lost Kevin Dunn and James Braithwaite from the leaderboard. In Class B, it was a bit of an Isle of Man takeover. Kyle Casement and Liam McCann in the Citroen C2 taking second place in the class from 67th on the overall leaderboard. The class victory, though, would go to the Rapid Civic pair of Rory and Paul McCann, giant killing once again in 39th place overall. There was plenty of drama in Class D, which briefly saw Chris West and Keith Hounslow take the lead over the afternoon pass of the Beacon Fell stage. Unfortunately, they would retire a little later into the rally. Wayne Jones and Daffyd Evans had also taken the lead in the class briefly on the Long Knot stage, but they dropped down a little on the leaderboard through the remaining stages of the rally, taking second place, but only 34 seconds off the lead. And taking that class victory, and pretty ecstatic with it, would be local crew Darren Atkinson and Matty Daniels. They'd been there or thereabouts on pace and consistency all day, and even when they briefly relinquished that lead, it didn't take long for them to get it back again. A fantastic win to start the season for the Escort pair. We wouldn't see any change in Class E from those earlier results. Wayne Sisson and Michael Hendry unable to get any closer to our leaders, settling though for a well-deserved second place in the class. But taking the class victory in a familiar pattern from last season would be William Hill and Pereira Wynne Davies, really getting to grips with that Rally 3 Fiesta now and putting in some strong times to end the opening round of the season 15th place overall. It hadn't been the smoothest of weekends for event sponsor John Stone with Laura Marshall alongside. They'd been lying in 20th overall in the Legend Fires Polo R5, but would go off the road on a slippy corner on stage 8. We're on to the hard-charging top 10, and for Ollie Mellors and Ian Windress, it would be an afternoon push, seeing them moving up a few positions and into that 10th spot by the finish of the rally. It had been a strong showing for Hugh Brunton and Drew Sturrock. They put in some good times all day, ending the rally 9th place overall, even after being up as high as 8th at one point. Paul McKinnon and Keir Beaton make their limited programme count. Not quite that second place we saw in 2022, but with the competition here this weekend, that was perhaps understandable. They managed an impressive 8th place overall. The day wasn't getting any better though for Keith Cronin and Mikey Galvin. The problems from this morning's stages behind them, but a spin in stage 6 would see them dropping even more time, managing to climb up as high as 7th place by the finish, but little consolation. It was a fantastic start to the season though for Mark Kelly and Will Atkins in that Skoda. They put in some good times to end the rally with 6th place. Strong points in the Pro Tyre Championship to start the season with that finish. Neil Roskell and Di Roberts, who just missed out on the championship of course last season, were getting faster as the day went on, most importantly staying out of trouble. Well, mostly until they reached the end of the rally with 5th place overall and hit the bail on the very last chicane, having to nurse the car back to the finish in Garstang. There'd be even worse luck though for previous 2nd place Orshan Price and Rodri Evans. They'd have problems with the car in stage 7, the former BRC champ having to pull over. It was game over after such a promising run on the first round to this point. And that new car seemed to be behaving for James Williams and Ross Whittick. It was certainly doing what they needed it to. They'd be happy enough with their times, taking 4th place overall. But more importantly, maximum points in the Pro Tyre Motorsport UK Asphalt Rally Championship. The debut in the new Yaris Rally 2 had gone well for Myron Evans and Jonathan Jackson. They'd had the pressure on their shoulders, but they came here and took the final step on the podium. With limited seat time and no personal development in the car so far, it would be reasonable to expect that they needed a bit more time than this to get up to speed, but clearly they were pretty close already. Will Crichton and Liam Regan show their class, managing to stay out of any drama despite it going on around them, having a good run and bringing that Fiesta home in 2nd place. It was great to see a new name fighting at the top of the leaderboard, and victory really can't be far away for this pair. But taking the victory and getting his name on the trophy for the 2nd time here on his home event, the Legend Fires Northwest stages, will be Chris Ingram. 2019 European Rally Champion, of course. And for Alex Kirani alongside, it will be a welcomed maiden overall win here in the UK.
Chris, I know you're delighted. You came here to do that and you've done it.
Yeah, we just had to get the job done. Had a really strong start. It's been a difficult day actually. We went out on slicks thinking it was still going to be dry up here, so I think we've managed it quite well and really happy to get the win.
You'll be looking forward to getting a new car, no doubt.
Yeah, definitely. Marianne's shown some great pace this afternoon, so it's looking strong.
So with the Legend Fires Northwest stages coming to a close in front of the fans in Garstang, here's a reminder of those overall results from a tough opening weekend on the Lancashire lanes.
What a fantastic mixture of events this month, and what action. Thank you for watching. We'll be back with a special stage rally show in association with the Mini Rally Challenge next month.
40 for Raidable Crest Titans.